Welcome, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Gaby U Show. I am your host, Gaby U. So today I have an amazing guest, this lovely lady, Taylor Longacre. She is a very sweet lady. In fact, she was one of the people that motivated me to starting this podcast. I'm going to, do a little introduction about her, and then we will deep dive into our topics today. So Taylor, she is a TV host, an executive producer, a podcaster, ministry leader, and a travel expert. She has an undergraduate and graduate degrees from Southern Methodist University. Taylor spent more than 14 years leading communications for global brands, including Hotels.com, Sabre, Expedia Group, and Kimberly Clark. She is also the host of the global travel show Hotel Hunt on Amazon Prime Video, and the hotel expert for the Canadian syndicated radio program and podcast, and also an informed traveler. She also executive produces and hosts other shows on Amazon Prime Video, including the business talk show, the Focus, and the public speaker showcase called Speak Up. Taylor also produces podcasts, including Intentional Talk with Lisa Kay and Taylor and Walkable Faith. That is Taylor for you. Welcome, lady.
Hi, Gaby. Thanks for having me.
Yes, I'm so glad you're here today. Like I said earlier on, that this girl, she is such an amazing lady. She has helped me so much and encouraged me to, starting this podcast. So I'm happy to have her here today. Yeah. So, Taylor, this is, I'm going to start out with some icebreaker questions. This is the questions I start out with all my guests.
Okay.
And you know
Bring
me,
them on.
I love food, and I want to know I'm kind of interested what other people like too.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you my first question. What is your favorite food?
That's kind of hard for me to choose one. I love
Yeah.
crazy food. So my favorite snack food is
Yeah.
popcorn,
Oh.
Yummy, buttery popcorn. My
Okay.
favorite healthier food is Brussels sprouts,
Oh.
balsamic glazed Brussels sprouts. Oh my gosh, so yummy.
Ooh.
And then my favorite candy is gummy bears. So I have a lot of favorite foods, but I'm a pesca vegetarian.
Okay.
So I eat a little bit of fish, but no meat, no white
Yes.
potatoes.
Okay.
No red meat, no egg yolks, only egg whites. So very
Yes.
funny, finicky eating habits. And I grew up on a
Okay.
ranch, go figure. But
Oh.
popcorn, Brussels sprouts, gummy bears. Yes.
Oh, I love Brussels sprouts. I mean, someone like me, like I do all these hormones, it's a good balancing hormone stuff. So if you're eating Brussels sprouts a lot, you probably have a good balance of your women hormones. Oh, what happened here? Okay, sorry, something came out. So yeah, that is good. So your hormones, I'm thinking, will be balanced.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't realize that, but I love balance.
Yeah, if you are eating a lot of them. Yeah, that is awesome. Okay. So the next thing I want to ask you, and the other icebreaker question I have is, what is your favorite quotes? I love quotes, and I know you probably love those quotes too as well. I feel it's something that helps us to, remind us about things. So tell me, what is you probably have many of them, but just tell us one. You can one or two if you.
Okay, that's fine. No, one of my favorite quotes, Gaby, is from the book of Philippians 1:6, and it says, "He who began a good work in you will be faithful to complete it until the day of Christ Jesus." And that scripture is very important to me. When I started one of my first jobs, a lady gave me that scripture, and it was placed in my office, and then I carried that to pretty much every job that I had, and I still have it today. And so that scripture really means a lot to me. A lot of times we start out in our careers and we have things that we want to do, we endeavor to do, and we feel like this is the path that I should take. But then what happens is our plans start to fizzle out. We don't really move forward with that. And I find that if God starts that in us, he will be faithful to complete it. And so everything, and I can't say I'm perfect in this, but really everything that I endeavor to do, I have to commit that first to the Lord and let him direct my path through that. And I know he will
Yes.
be faithful to complete it according to his mighty will and power.
Yes, girl, you just nailed it, because that is the same thing with me. That in my first episode I shared that is what has made me to be what I am today. My Christian faith, just going through that, because going through all different things in life, from childhood, some of the little childhood traumas I have, I won't say little, but it was something that's supposed to scare me. But going through that, now becoming who I am, I think that's my Christian faith, believing, you know God is always there for me, even as a little child, thanks to my parents too, who get me in this. But yes, that is the thing, that those of you listening today, he will be faithful to complete it for you. If he's told you this is where he wants you to go, that he will complete it. It might be like it's years. It will get you'll get there to that level where he wants you to be. Yeah, that's a great one. I love that one. I love it. All
Yes.
right. So now I want you to tell me, Taylor, what would you say are the things that have shaped you to be the woman you are today? What I want you to talk to me, like your struggles, your victories. Is it from your business, health, childhood, all those things? I want you to just go right in and tell us.
Wow. Okay. Well, how much time do we have?
We got enough time that we
All
can
right. All right.
It's a really open, say it as much what you want the listeners to hear.
Yes. Well, first off, I got into the field that I'm in based on, and I'll say it was prophecy from my gramps. When I was very young, he looked at me and he said, Taylor, you are going to be on television. And I said, really, Gramps? And he said, yes. And he said, do you know why? And I said, no. And he said, well, because there's no one that looks like you that is on television. And at the time, he could only count a few people. This was in the early 80s. And he said, there's only a few people that were on TV and in the media or spokespeople. And he said, you have a voice and you need to share that voice. And so that really inspired me. And then my dad opened a video production studio. And so growing up as a kid, I grew up on a ranch. And so I was not only on the farm and on tractors and running gardens, and we had our own chickens and cattle and horses and hogs, all of that. But my daddy had a video and camera store. So I had a chance to be around a lot of fun technology, and I loved it. And then my mom was also an entrepreneur. And so she was a nurse, but then she had a game store. And so it was such a cool time in the 80s with a mom that had all the best games. She had Atari and, what's now the new PlayStation systems. And she had the fun arcade video games. I mean, she just had the best stuff. And so I had a lot of fun and engagement that way too. And so I had some great examples from them. One, because they were entrepreneurs. Basically, they had side hustles. They had full-time work that they were doing. But beyond that, they also had side businesses that they were running. And they were always involved in some type of, typical network marketing, but they were always looking at a new business venture. And so I got used to seeing those meetings happening in our home, or us going and meeting with people and learning about them and networking and identifying ways that we could partner together on new businesses. And so I grew up hearing this from them. And so it was just very common for me to notice that not only were they doing one main thing, they were staying in a lane with one main career path, but they always had something else working. And so that was a very prominent piece of my life, was to hear from them and to hear that kind of language they would use. They'd be having those networking meetings and they would be talking with people, and they're saying, okay, well, how will this make money? And, how can we get more people who might be inspired by this? And what kind of language should we be using? And so I heard that all the time. my mom was a Mary Kay as well. And so
Oh.
she would have beauty consultants coming into our home, and they were doing skincare classes. And so I would always hear that too. There was just a
Yeah.
lot of activity going on. And, even at one point, Daddy, we had remodeled our home, and Daddy had created this whole area for Mommy where she could place all of her cosmetics, and everything was organized. And she had, all of the order slips and things that she needed in order to create it, and packaging and boxes and shipping supplies. It was all well organized. And so I just grew up with that. And so I believe that's one of the things that shaped me, was knowing that it's hard to rely on one occupation. You really have to diversify your sources of income, also to stay connected with others so that you can learn new ideas and new
Yes.
creative things. I think that's really helpful. No, I have had a lot of struggles. My parents divorced, and there was a lot of friction between the two of them. And so, I moved from several places when I was young, but that also taught me a lot about survival and really how to build a resilience so that you can get through things. And I believe that's been very helpful. And then again, as we talked about earlier, my faith in the Lord, and just knowing that He is that ever constant present help in time of need. And that was one of the things that was been very helpful to me. And just that peace that I have that just really helps carry me through. Doesn't mean that I won't see other struggles and other problems,
Oh,
but
yeah.
knowing that I have the Lord's presence was that one constant to carry me through.
That is so powerful. And you're saying that, that's one constant. And yes, because everything changes, as you could see, in your story, your mom and dad, they were doing this stuff, but then, the divorce happens, and it kind of mess a lot of things, but God is always there. He's the constant. People will change. You will lose friends. You might have family issues. Those things changes, but God is always,
Yes.
always there. That's the constant. We need that. And wow, that's such a power. Well, I can see how you came to be, because you are so good. For those of you, if you don't know Taylor, I mean, she's really good at what she does. Have that great personality. It's just like she's meant for this. You could see the passion that she has for what she's doing, and we could all this stem from many parts, and that's the thing. You tell people, I talk to people sometimes that we don't want to not comparing people with everybody has their own story, everybody has their own exam, they have the way, because sometimes we look at other people and it's like, oh, how come they have this I don't have. You don't know how they came, what they came from. There is a reason that they have this kind of skill. And again, it comes back to what God has given everybody. God has given them something that is, they will do much better than somebody else, and you just have to discover what is yours and work
That's
on
right.
that. Not say,
That's
oh,
right.
I didn't have what Taylor has, how come I don't have that.
Right. We all have a secret sauce. We just got to find it.
Yes,
Yep.
yeah.
And pour it
So
on.
and work on that. So this leads me to the next thing I want to talk to you about. So what would you say you are most proud as a woman today? If I wake you at night and say, hey, Taylor, what are you proud of?
Oh. Well, I tell you, it is something that I've been doing for a long time. And my training is in broadcast TV and public relations, but it's really helping brands stand out and shine.
Yeah.
And so I did that for years with big brands, hotels.com and Expedia and Sabre and others. But when I started hosting and producing TV shows on a regular basis, I had the opportunity to take over a show called The Focus. And it's a talk
Yes.
show where I interview visionaries, business leaders, entrepreneurs, entertainers, authors, people who are at the top of their game and who have a story to tell about their business and their passion.
Yes.
Well, when I took the show over from a very accomplished executive producer and studio owner, the show was primarily featuring businessmen. These were the visionaries. These were the people who were at the top of their game, but everyone looked the same. They were men in a blue suit. Many of them had dark brown hair. Many of them didn't look like you or me, Gabby.
Yes.
And so I thought, while I can commend what's being done here, I know there's a greater vision and there's stories out there that need to be told. So one of my very first guests was a friend of mine. His name is Blake Pyron. Blake is the son of my friend Mary Ann, and I went to church with them, and I met them through church. But Blake is the youngest entrepreneur in the state of Texas with Down syndrome. And Blake has accomplished what so many of us would dream of accomplishing in our lifetimes. What Blake did was he started a snow cone shack. Basically, his mom helped him. What happened was he graduated from high school and she didn't have a place to send him. He normally had after school care. She got him a job. But the barbecue place that he was working at shut down. And so she had no place to send him, but she and her husband were both working. His brother was working as well. And with his special needs, he needed a place to go and a thing to do. He's very creative. And so he was frustrated with not having an outlet for that creativity. Well, Blake started Blake's Snow Cone Shack with the help of his mom. And then he went on to start a scholarship fund to help other individuals with special needs and disabilities so that they could get a chance. He rang the opening bell of the New York Stock Exchange. And on top of that, Gabby, he has been successful in getting legislation passed for fair wages for people with disabilities. And so this was several years ago when I interviewed him the first time. But at the time, like I said, he was the youngest entrepreneur in the state of Texas. Now he has grown into being a young man, and he's still accomplishing so much. But that was my first story that I wanted to profile on The Focus, because I feel like there are great stories. There are voices out there that need to be heard. There are people who are waiting to step into the spotlight, and all they need is that right opportunity to help them. And so, of course, Blake has his own platform. He has been on TV and he's done lots of great things, but it meant a lot to me to share his story with my audience and with as many people as I could. And so, when I think about what I'm proud of, it is doing that. It is really helping those brands. And at the same time, I get to do what I love. And that is be a storyteller, be a conduit to help bring to life those great stories and examples and testimonies of individuals who are doing great work.
Wow, that is powerful. That is great. Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing too, it's some of your things, your passion. I think that's one of the things for me too. I have some similar things like that, starting this podcast. It was, most people had thought that maybe I will do a podcast that is fully on, health. I mean, knowing that I'm a healthcare provider, although, we talk about health stuff as well, but for some reason, it wasn't where I felt like God wasn't speaking to me to do that for the podcast. I mean, I already do health stuff on my social media pages, but I just thought that, there are a lot of stories talking about, stories out there that needs to come out for we want to give people the platform to be able to share the story, because one person listening today, it might just be that story that can change their life. You never know. And I love your mission. I love what you're doing. And that is something to be proud of. Yeah, that's great. So leading to that now, what are some of the encouraging words you want to give our listeners today to that woman that is listening to us today?
Absolutely. A lot of people say follow your passion, and I think that can work, but I really say follow your purpose. That is to identify your gifts, talents, and abilities that are God-given, and the way that you can impart those on the world or your sphere of influence. And following your passion. I know my passion has been in different areas. At one point I was a fitness instructor, and that was my side hustle while I was in undergraduate school. At other times, I've been involved in organizations and I was really all gung ho for that. And then
Yeah.
my passion fizzled for that. But purpose, if you really can identify what that purpose is and why you're doing it, that really
Yes.
helps you to stay focused. So when
Mhm.
all that stuff starts coming at you and someone's saying, hey, look at this pretty shiny, look at that. Why don't you try this? And you're
Yeah.
like, wait a minute. Let me check myself because I
Yes.
want to work and live and breathe and move according to the purpose that God has designed for me. And
Yes.
not to say that my purpose will always look the same,
Mm.
but as long as I know where I am at the core and where that needs to go and what how I feel I can offer that gift, then I know
Yeah.
I'm on the right track and I
Yes.
can't go wrong. So I really believe in that purposeful and very intentional living.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then again, I'm not perfect at it by any means. You'll catch me watching some crazy
Oh
show
yeah.
or, binging something or,
Mm.
hanging out at the park. I enjoy lots of stuff. And with
Yes.
a travel show and a business show and the speaker
Mm-hmm.
show and the podcast, all the different things I do. But at the core of it, I have to get back to what my purpose is. And so when
Purposes.
I start to get off course, and I've had that happen many times, and of course, we all had a
Mm.
crazy year, it's easy to lose sight of
Oh
where you
yes.
really need to be. But I think that's taught us one big thing is that one is that, time is of the essence and that,
Mm-hmm.
nothing is promised to us. Relationships matter. They really do. And
Mm.
I think that we all learned that, reaching out and being with our family and friends and seeing people
Yes.
when we were unable to do that, we looked at creative ways to get that done. And so I think
Yes.
that's important is to really value and treasure those relationships. And then
Mm.
also valuing our time. Kind of what I was saying before is that when we are very intentional with our time,
Mm.
we can treasure it every single day, because one of the
Yes.
things I realized was, one, I was doing a lot of things that I didn't really need to do. I was going
Mm.
to all sorts of meetings and trying to be involved in different groups and getting out there. I thought that was the right thing to do. But when push came to shove and I wasn't able to get in the car and go to all these places, or I wasn't able to show up in the way I was used to, and I
Yes.
had to wear a mask, I'm like, wait a minute. Okay, what do I really want to do? What is most important? And so my calendar started to strip down and I started to look at the priorities and
Mm.
map out my time. I'm like, okay, these three things are most important to me. These are things I'm going to do and I'm going to do them
Yes.
well. All this other stuff, I didn't really have to be there. And then I
Yeah.
started looking at my budget and some of these meetings and things I was doing, I had to pay for. I'm like,
Mm.
okay, if I set aside a couple $100 and I'm going to spend it on these types of activities, which ones are
Yes.
most important to me? And so I really started to prioritize. And that
Yeah.
was a big eye opener for me and a wake up call.
Mm-hmm. And all this thing, you kind of learned this in 2020, right? A lot of us
Yeah.
have to pivot.
You've had to pivot. Yes.
Yes. Oh, wow. Talking about purpose, I mean, I think this is something that's with all the guests I've been interviewing that we've somehow kind of touched on. And we've been talking about this and about purpose. So those of you listening, you might be hearing all the episodes that, why are we talking about purpose? It's so important. I mean, because something I've talked about that it hurts me or pains my heart to hear people say, I don't think I have a purpose in this world. Especially they would say that maybe they are going through hard times or they've tried so many things and things don't work. But everybody has a purpose. It's just that maybe they haven't discovered it. And sometimes people struggle not able to find their purpose because, maybe doing too many things,
Yeah.
mixing with the wrong people.
Yeah.
That can kind of block you from, knowing what your purpose is. And that is for me, actually, that's one thing I'm proud of for myself, that I know I'm using what God has given me, knowing the purpose. Because talking about the purpose too is that people confuse it too with career, feeling like when I say career or where they work, like, oh, this
Yeah.
is what I'm supposed to do. I cannot do something else. And sometimes too, they get the advice from people like, for example, I will talk for myself, like me, I'm a, healthcare person. But I love to do other things. I love to cook. I love to sing. If there's something for me to do and acting, I can do that. And people will be like, oh, you need to stay in your box. Are you not a healthcare provider? Why are you doing all this other stuff? It's like, well, this, it doesn't, change, if you, sorry, I'm kind of having something here. Yeah, like you have to just keep discovering what are the things. You don't have to be just in a box. And like there are some things that you are being called to do that it will be a purpose, because if you don't, there's something that keeps on bringing you down, like especially when some of you are struggling with different things in your life. And I'm just talking about this for myself. This is something I've gone through with working with different places in different jobs. It's like, what is it? Why are you feeling like you are not getting fulfillment about different things you've done in your life? It's probably because you have not got to work on your purpose. And sometimes that is something to remind us, like if you feel like you're doing stuff they are not working, it might be that you are listening to what other people tell you. Because sometimes, it's good we're taking advice from people, but at the same time we might be getting the wrong advice. And you know a lot of the times it might be loved ones, close friends, that are giving us the wrong advice. So, and that is why it's something I really recommend, which I know maybe someone like you, Taylor, recommending to get a mentor, get a coach, somebody to help you to go through this process. And this is something I know has been helpful for me. And you attest to that, Taylor, that have you in your life, you've gotten mentors and all that help you through with different
I
things?
have.
Yeah.
Yes, I have. I've had
Mhm.
wonderful mentors and coaches. It
Mhm.
started with my parents.
Yes.
Also, my aunts and uncles have always been really helpful. And
Yeah.
then I've had teachers who continue to pour into me after I graduated from high school and college.
Yes.
And I've still rely on them today. They've been just very instrumental in guidance. I had
Yes.
an individual at one of my first jobs who initially recommended to me that I should look further into the career of public relations. I was
Mm.
doing more event planning, and he said, just based on your personality, based on your skills, I really recommend you go
Mm.
full force into public relations. And I still thank him for that today. So,
Yes.
there've been a lot. I have a media coach. I have a friend who I consider her my life coach. I have a
Mm.
financial planner that I work with. My
Yes.
husband is very into wellness, and so
Mm-hmm.
I consider him my wellness coach. So there are a
Yes.
lot of, people, and I believe, scripture
Mm.
tells us that, in wise counsel, seek wise counsel. And
Mm.
so I believe that, of course, that is very important for us to have
Mm.
someone to pour into us, because we certainly don't know it all.
Yes.
And in fact, I don't think just one human being can be all of that to us. And so it's
Mm.
important to have a support system.
Yes, that's the support system. That's a good one. Yeah, we're not meant to be living in isolation and just think we can figure everything on our own. Yeah, awesome. So, Taylor, how can people connect with you?
Yes,
Mhm.
my brand is TV with TLC. So you
Mm.
can go to tvwithtlc.com.
Mm.
You can
Mm.
also find links there for my shows. If you have Amazon Prime, you can always go to Amazon Prime Video and look for The Focus. That's the talk show. You can
Okay.
also look for Hotel Hunt. That's the travel show where I go all over the world to beautiful places to stay. And I also tell you about the great experiences you can have and the food and the nightlife and the entertainment along the way. I have a
Mm.
new show called Speak Up. That's on Amazon Prime Video. And then my
Mm.
podcasts are available anywhere you get your podcast. And those are Intentional Talk. I have an audio version of The Focus. And then I have a new podcast called Workable Faith. And that's the intersection between faith and the work that we do. So
Oh.
you can find a lot. It's all out there on tvwithtlc.com. Also on Instagram, I'm at travel with TLC. So typically look for the TLC brand and I will take good care of you.
Okay, that is awesome. And those of you, if you are listening to this on podcast, I will have it in the show notes. All these have links. And if it's on YouTube, I will have it on the description area. So you guys will have to check that out. Wow. Well, thank you, Taylor, for coming in today. I think we've really learned a lot talking with you today. So I appreciate you if you came in today.
Thank you, Gabby. Thank you for inviting me, and congratulations on stepping
Yeah.
out and getting into the spotlight. I know I talked with you about that a while ago, and you followed through with another piece of your purpose. So
Yes.
congratulations to you, Gabby. And I'm excited for everyone who gets to hear you
Yeah.
and where you can pour into them and you can make a better connection with them. But great
Yes.
job with that, Gabby.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Well, this concludes our end of our episode today. And I'm going to finish it up with my lovely quote from Maya Angelou that says, "When you know better, you do better." Thank you. See you next time. Bye bye.